Kia ora, hello and welcome to this edition of Mainland Television News. I'm Phil Hawes. In this bulletin, Nelson MP Nick Smith back in Cabinet. Fifa officials arrive in Nelson today to assess our city, and the Waimea Village dispute is soon to have its day in court. Nelson MP Nick Smith has been reinstated into Cabinet, with Prime Minister John Key handing Dr Smith the housing and conservation portfolios. I spoke to Nick Smith about his reinstatement and his new portfolios earlier today. Nelson MP and now Cabinet Minister Nick Smith is on the line. Dr Smith, back in Cabinet, your personal feelings about the announcement?
Oh, pretty excited. You know, I had a rough 2012 year. Nice to draw a line under it. Anybody that's involved in politics aspires to be in the cabinet room. It is the engine room of the government. Good for Nelson in the sense of being able to be a strong voice in that cabinet room for our home community. Also really looking forward to both those challenges in housing and conservation.
Absolutely.
Which are both areas of which I've got some strong values that I want to see translated into good government policy.
Well, I was going to ask you about that, but first of all, in terms of your political career, Dr Smith, do you consider things to be back on track now?
Oh, I think my political career makes the Southern Alps look flat.
Right.
It's had its fair share of bumps. Politics is a bruising business, but so it should be, because there's so much at stake, Phil. And certainly, look, I'm delighted to be back in the cabinet room and with these particular challenges.
All right. Those portfolios, housing and conservation, in terms of your expertise, do you think you're positioned well to give your expertise to the government?
Well, my passion is in the area of good natural resource management, issues around infrastructure and all those issues. Now, with conservation, I would consider myself a practical conservationist, one that wants to see good balance, that if we are going to grow the economy, if we're going to create new jobs, you can't take sort of a rigid ideological point of view, but at the same time, you need to champion the values of, you know, the beaches, the parks, all those things that make New Zealand special. In housing, an enormous challenge. Phil, for the last 25 years, we have seen home ownership levels in New Zealand decline.
Yes.
I actually think it's part of the Kiwi culture and ethic that a family that works hard, on an average income, careful with their money, is able to afford a home. And I worry that the stretch financially is becoming too hard, that the price of homes has gone up significantly faster than people's incomes. Now, it's an enormously difficult problem. Previous Prime Minister Helen Clark had a housing affordability unit set up specifically in the Prime Minister's department to try and tackle it, and was not successful. You know, you've got, on interest rates, this government's done really well. What we're going to have to do is have a really hard look at questions of land supply, the infrastructure costs, the building material costs, and of course we also have to do all that in a way that makes sure we maintain the quality of building stock. You might be able to do cheap houses in the form of tents. New Zealanders won't have a bar of that, and so the trick is good quality affordable housing, and that's going to be an enormous challenge.
Absolutely, and it's no secret that the affordability index for New Zealanders is way out of skew with many parts of the rest of the world.
Yeah, it is, and that's a worry. You know, when we talk about the loss of New Zealanders overseas, everybody talks about income. I actually think the issue of, well, what sort of home am I able to buy in Australia as compared with New Zealand is part of that equation of keeping, you know, young, talented New Zealanders committed to our country. Now, that index that came out yesterday, it's called the Demographer Report on Housing Affordability, did show that New Zealand is significantly more affordable than cities like Sydney. But it doesn't take anything away of that challenge that we've got through New Zealand, and even at home, Phil and Nelson. You look at how expensive homes are relative to people's incomes, and that is very much symptomatic of the New Zealand problem, albeit it's more focused in places like Auckland, Wellington, and the growing areas like Nelson and Queenstown. And of course we have a special challenge in Christchurch with the earthquakes and so many thousands of properties damaged, of getting the housing sector there moving as quickly as possible to get those Kiwis into homes of which they can get on with their lives.
Well, that raises another question, really. How much will Christchurch absorb the energy of the housing minister over the next few years?
Well, it's important. The Prime Minister has made very plain that the rebuilding of Christchurch is one of his government's key priorities. But equally, if you look at the affordability problem, it is most acute in Auckland. And so I will be putting a lot of energy into both those centres.
All right. Nick, how does it work when a minister returns after, well, some time away from the cabinet table? Does it go back to just...
You're very polite, Phil.
Yeah.
It's been called the sin bin. Well, there'll be a formal swearing in at Government House Thursday week, and that's when I'll sort of formally take up responsibility for that conservation and housing portfolio, and we'll be attending the cabinet meeting that next week after that.
Okay. Describe to us how Nelsonians benefit from having their MP around the cabinet table.
Well, I think most people appreciate that we live in a style of government, of cabinet government. The really core decisions about what takes place are in that room, and I've been privileged to be there before and think I can achieve more for Nelson and make sure that Nelson perspective is heard within the cabinet discussions. It's a two-edged sword though, Phil, if I'm honest. The truth is that the last 9 months I have been in the sin bin or on the back bench, is that you've got a lot more time.
Yes.
For your home community, and I've spent a lot of that time over the last 9 months reconnecting and feeling quite reinvigorated by the challenges that our community has, and now the opportunity to translate that into the discussions that are going to occur in John Key's cabinet.
Now, I've heard that the workload of a cabinet minister is somewhat, well, almost chaotic. It sounds like you're on the go pretty much 24/7. Have you had time to restore the batteries during your time, and I'll say it, in the sin bin?
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. The role as a minister is just 24/7, absolutely intense. And to some degree, after I resigned in March, you sort of felt like this huge weight come off your shoulders. And without having to be always on edge for that next media call, always on edge wanting to know what's occurring, and keeping yourself absolutely up to speed, particularly in your own portfolio areas. So yes, I do feel absolutely reinvigorated, and looking forward to getting back into that pace.
What's the first job that you'll get on with as minister?
The really big piece of work is going to be around housing affordability. In my view, the Resource Management Act is working against New Zealand families' interests around getting access to an affordable home. And so the number one priority will be sitting down with the officials, reading all the detail around what are the real practical steps that will change that curve of history of declining home ownership rates in New Zealand. And I'm under no illusions that there's a magic bullet or a simple formula. It's going to be a comprehensive package, and it's going to be about working that up over the months ahead so that we can make that change for New Zealand families.
All right. Is there going to be a wee celebration in the Smith household over this?
Oh, next Thursday when I get sworn in, I'll enjoy a wine, a good Nelson wine, with my family. Politics has brutal ups and and downs, and I've experienced them both. And when you've been in the trade for a long time, as I have been privileged to be, you know not to celebrate too much, because just around the corner can be some difficult times.
There are many of us that have the opinion, if you're not making some waves in the political arena, then perhaps you're not doing the job well, so that would count in your favour.
I'm a little bit of a view that, yes, I need to be cautious and I need to be careful, but nor do I want to be simply keeping a seat warm. I'm in politics to make a positive change for both Nelson and in the portfolio areas I work, and there's always some element of risk.
All right. Nick Smith, can we say congratulations on your reinstatement into Cabinet, and we look forward to catching up with you in person when you're back here in Nelson.
Thanks very much, Phil. Pleased to be on Mainland.
In health news, up to 100,000 New Zealanders are expected to contract a new strain of norovirus this year, with the latest strain expected to cause an epidemic of gastroenteritis. The new strain, known as Sydney 2012, has caused widespread cases of nausea, vomiting and diarrhoea in Europe, with an estimated 1.2 million cases of gastro in Britain, where it's been dubbed the Chunder from Down Under. The latest figures around influenzas in New Zealand show that 95% 50% of cases showing up around the country are Sydney 2012. It's been estimated that 50 to 100,000 New Zealanders could contract the strain during this year's flu season. The final stage in selecting host cities for FIFA's Under-20 World Cup in 2015 has begun with the arrival in Nelson today of a FIFA inspection group from Zurich who are visiting 9 cities around the country that have put in bids to host matches. The initial process to choose cities began back in June 2011 when the 13 cities that hosted matches during the Rugby World Cup were contacted for expressions of interest, followed by a formal request for proposals in July 2011. Proposals were received from 9 cities around the country and the evaluation process began. The cities and stadiums that are being considered by the FIFA inspection group are Christchurch's AMI Stadium, Dunedin's Forsyth Bar Stadium, Nelson's Trafalgar Park, in Wellington the Westpac Stadium, Napier's McLean Park, Auckland's North Harbour Stadium, New Plymouth's Yarrow Stadium and Hamilton's Waikato Stadium, as well as Whangarei's Toll Stadium. Following the visits and input from the local organising committee, FIFA will then make the final decision on which cities will host the tournament. It's expected that the decision will be announced within the next 8 weeks. The dispute between residents and the owners of Richmond's Waimea Village is on its way to the High Court after months of protest by the village's residents and a complex arbitration. Monthly fees at Richmond's Waimea Village have risen from $125 to more than $180. The High Court is being asked to find out what the increased fees are being used for. Spokesperson for the residents at Waimea Village, Jerry Rowland, told Mainland Television News that many of the village's residents are simply unable to afford the increase. A preliminary hearing will be held on the 13th of February this year. And finally, there's something new for local and visiting mountain bikers around town with a newly developed map board and accompanying brochure that puts the spotlight on a series of mountain bike tracks that have been developed in the Codgers mountain bike park at the top of the Brook Valley. Mapping out the trail network has been an ongoing project for the Nelson Mountain Bike Club using the council's GIS information, which is available on the top of the South Maps website. The club then went to the next stage, designing and installing the map boards, with club members and owners of local company Photomap doing the technical work for the map board design. Nelson City Council has now used the information to create a Codgers mountain bike park information brochure. Free copies of the brochures, including detailed maps, are available from the council office and all local bike shops. They can also be downloaded from the council's website and the Nelson Mountain Bike Club website. After the break here on Mainland Television News, a check of the weather word around the region and some of the events and happenings in our town.
Why would you want to pay as much as $1,000 for a single bed mattress when you can buy a high quality locally made mattress like this for as little as $220? And a queen size mattress could cost you in excess of $3,000, but at Nelson Beds you could have a mattress like this as low as $425. So why would you go out and spend a fortune on your child's bedroom when you can come to Nelson Beds and buy a complete single mattress and base set, a 7-drawer Scotch chest, a headboard and a 3-drawer bedside cabinet for as little as $979? So call and discuss our custom manufacturing options and local after-sales service at Nelson Beds, Nelson's only bedding manufacturer.
Hi, Gus Bulens of Gustav's Clothing for Men on Trafalgar Street. I'd like to invite all the people of Nelson, Tasman and international and local visitors to come and check out our brand new refurbished store, which is now chock full of the latest international and New Zealand brands. From France, Lacoste. From the UK, Ben Sherman. R.M. Williams. From Sweden, Gant. From the US, Calvin Klein jeans. And from New Zealand, Rembrandt suits, jackets and trousers. Cutler, Berlin and snowy fine merino knitwear. So come on into Gustav's on Trafalgar Street and we'll look after you.
Altex Coatings Limited, your expert team for all marine and industrial protective coatings. Come in and talk to Ray, Marcus and Ian to get the best price in town. Altex Coatings Limited, 79 Vickerman Street, Port Nelson, or call them on 5468 375.
.1 The Shed.
Welcome back, you're watching Mainland Television News. I'm Phil Hawes. Well, pretty mixed sort of a day really. Let's see what's in store weather-wise tomorrow.
Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. Everywhere you go, always take the weather. Everywhere you go, always take the weather with you. Everywhere
Now time to catch up with what's going on around the region. The Nelson District Kennel Association Championship Dog Shows are coming up at the Richmond Showgrounds on the 26th and 27th of January. Over 80 pedigree breeds will be exhibiting. Spectators are warmly welcomed. The official ceremony for the Great Taste Cycle Trail is coming up this Saturday. The first stage of the Great Taste Cycle Trail will soon extend right out to Motueka, Riwaka and Kaiteriteri, and then up the Motueka Valley, and will officially open this coming Saturday at the new Waimea Cycle Bridge near Richmond. That's going to happen at 11 a.m. There's going to be a barbecue and refreshments available, and a toll will operate on the bridge for a gold coin donation on the day. Riders then go on to explore the food and beverage trail further for a late lunch or cruisy afternoon, then book a cycle shuttle for later in the day to return to their starting points. Sounds like a great day out. As does the Motueka Teddy Bears Picnic. It's coming up this Sunday, January 27th, 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Bring your teddy bear to Dex Reserve in Motueka and enjoy a picnic. There's going to be face painting, bouncy castles, sports and lots more. It's free fun for the family. And that is this edition of Mainland Television News. Thanks very much for joining us. Don't forget, we're always interested in your stories here at Mainland TV, be it an item of community interest, a notice, or something you think we need to know about. Do please get in touch with us here at Mainland TV. On behalf of the team here, wishing you a safe and enjoyable evening, I'm Phil Hawes for Mainland Television News.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.
The majority of information in our life comes to us through our vision. With only one set of eyes to last our lifetime, it's important that you look after them. For over 20 years, Physique Harrington Eye Care has led the way in providing the Nelson Tasman region with professional eye care. Our team are committed to providing you and your family with the highest standard of eye care. As part of this commitment, at Physique Harrington Eye Care, we recommend Crizal lenses. Crizal is a revolutionary lens which repels dust and fingerprints. This means it's easier to clean and stays cleaner longer. Visit us at our Nelson, Richmond and Stoke practices and ask about our Crizal satisfaction guarantee.
G'day, I'm Andy from Cirque Automotive at 133 St Vincent Street, up the road from Harvey Norman. We're your one-stop automotive repair shop. From Warrant Fitnesses to engine rebuilding, minis to buses, we do the lot. Book your vehicle in for a Warrant Fitness and service combo, mention this advert and you won't pay a single cent for the Warrant Fitness G. So come down and see me and my friendly staff for all your mechanical repairs and needs.
FAV Mobile Solutions are the scooter, walker and wheelchair specialists for the Nelson region. Call in and see the huge range available. Take one for a free test drive and pick up your free booklet guide. They also provide a rescue service if you ever get a puncture or a flat battery. Come in and see Robin and the friendly team at FAV Mobile Solutions in the Richmond Free Car Park opposite the Old Town Hall.
Waimea Telecommunications, specializing in free-to-air satellite TV, computer cabling, telephone systems, wireless and broadband internet installations. Call Julian Toon on 544-4203.
Xi Jinping, General Secretary of the Central Communist Committee of the Communist Party of China, has vowed to unswervingly fight corruption. The commitment came in a speech at a plenary meeting of the party's Central Commission for Discipline Inspection. Now, Xi Jinping has stressed that the fight against corruption is a long-term, complicated, and arduous task. He said the fight must address both the symptoms and root causes and combine punishment with prevention and with an emphasis on prevention. He has also urged those who attend the meeting to push for the building of clean governance and the anti-corruption war. The campaign against corruption has been rising in China in recent months, with more violations by local officials being revealed by the media. More than 660,000 officials have been punished for disciplinary violations since 2007. Among them, over 60 were at the ministerial and provincial level. Well, China has released an ambitious plan to restructure the country's key industries. The plan was jointly issued by 12 government ministries and focused on industries including steel, auto manufacturing, cement, shipbuilding, and many others. Guan Xin has the latest.
Dependence on investment spending, now at around 50% of GDP growth, has created huge industrial overcapacity in China, eroding economic efficiency and requiring increasing amounts of capital to deliver diminishing returns. China has stepped up its campaign to curb overcapacity in its major industries as part of a broader effort to ensure sustainable economic growth after recovering from the most prolonged economic slowdown since the financial crisis. Policymakers will raise the threshold for new entrants into the targeted sectors, scrap outdated production capacity, and push ahead with mergers and acquisitions.
Improving concentration rate in these industries will be good for the energy conservation and pollution reduction and resource allocation. It will help reduce the risk of overcapacity and increase input of R&D.
The plan covers 9 major industries, including autos, steel, and cement, involving 900 listed companies in total, half of the Asian market, and total market value of 400 billion yuan. The goal is to have the top 10 automobile companies control 90% of the market by 2015. For steel, the top 10 should control 60%.
Mergers and acquisitions are needed in a certain development stage of industries. Some smaller, weaker enterprises will be phased out of the market. It's cruel to some extent, but natural. But it's good for the long-term, healthy development of the industry and provide opportunities for bigger companies.
The plan requires all local governments to screen and modify the policies and rules that go against the restructuring plan, especially those prohibit non-local companies to acquire local companies. It also cautions about the market, finance, and employee accommodation issues. Guan Xin, CCTV, Beijing.
The annual World Economic Forum meeting has opened in the Swiss town of Davos. The theme of the 2013 Davos Forum is resilient dynamism. Some 2,500 participants from more than 100 countries and more than 1,000 international organizations will attend. The meeting is taking place in a more stable economic environment than last year, when the debt crises of Greece and Spain threatened financial panic. In around 300 sessions and workshops during the 6-day meeting, participants will hold discussions on issues such as how the global economy can get back to robust growth and how business models can adapt to generational and structural changes. Now, a group of 11 European Union countries has been given the go-ahead to work on the introduction of a tax on financial transactions, which is designed to help pay for the rescue of Europe's banks and discourage risky trading. According to the decision, trades in bonds and shares will be taxed at 0.1% and trades in derivatives at 0.01%.
Europe looks set for a new financial transaction tax. At a meeting of European finance ministers in Brussels, 11 countries agreed to the new measure, among them France and Germany. Under the plan, a small levy would be imposed on any trade of shares or bonds and financial derivative contracts. The countries backing the move hope it'll tackle high-frequency speculative trades, which are blamed for unsettling markets.
It is a milestone for EU tax policy, as it paves the way for more ambitious member states to progress on a tax file, even when unanimity could not be achieved.
Critics say the tax cannot work properly unless applied worldwide, or at least Europe-wide. Swedish Finance Minister Anders Borg.
We believe that the transaction tax is a proposal that has negative impact on growth. It will increase the borrowing costs for governments, for corporations and obviously for households.
One EU official said the tax could be worth as much as 35 billion euros a year, and some countries are already banking on the extra income. But it's feared the cost of the tax won't be shouldered by the banks, but passed on to customers instead. London is Europe's biggest financial centre, and although the UK is not participating, it won't escape the tax. Under the proposed rules, if either the buyer or the seller is based in one of the countries imposing the tax, it must be paid regardless of where the transaction takes place. The European Commission will now move to formally draft its plan.
Chinese New Year is a major highlight in Singapore's cultural calendar. This is the biggest and most significant event of the Chinese community, and it is observed and celebrated by Singaporeans from all walks of life. Our correspondent Mira Liu has a story.
At the Chinatown Chinese New Year celebrations 2013 official light-up and opening ceremony, Singaporeans from different ethnic backgrounds and visitors from all over the world gathered and soaked themselves in a sea of Chinese red and festive mood.
We come from England. Yes, wonderful. Wouldn't miss it.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, we have a lot of Asian friends, so we celebrate with them.
There's no better place than Chinatown when it comes to celebrating Chinese New Year. From its official lights up on the 19th of January to 11th of March, a host of Chinese New Year celebrations will take place right here.
During the festival period, Chinatown will showcase an exciting, colorful and vibrant program over 53 days. With over 500 festival stalls, Chinatown Festival Bazaar and Festival Carnival will be the ideal one-stop destination for festival goodies shopping. There will also be nightly stage shows to promote the rich traditions of Lunar New Year and spread the festive cheer to all.
Chinese New Year is definitely very important in our Singapore's calendar. And for the 3 weeks festival, we are expecting more than 2 million Singaporeans and visitors to just come down to Chinatown to celebrate with us for this festival.
The 108-meter-long snake-like structure is now lit up and signifies the beginning of the festival period. The designers came up with the idea of linking cube lanterns together, which symbolizes traditions being passed from one generation to the next. Mira Liu, CCTV News, Singapore.
First Lady of the United States, Michelle Obama, reasserted herself as a global style icon on Obama's inauguration day by wearing a stunning ruby red, sleeveless, backless gown to the inaugural ball. Her fashion status can be traced all the way back to 2009. Let's take a look.
Michelle Obama took people's breath away on that cold day in January 2009 when she emerged wearing a bold lemongrass Isabel Toledo dress with matching coat.
When they came out and said, "We're here and the nation is changing." And that's what it said when she came out in that outfit.
How good looking is my wife?
The ethereal off-white, one-shouldered gown she wore to the inauguration ball that evening also made a statement. The dress was made by an unknown designer at the time, then 26-year-old Jason Wu. The attention surrounding the dress helped launch Wu's budding career. Michelle is not only a boost for designers, but also the entire industry. Experts say just one appearance of her in a designer clothes is worth $14 million. Total appearance in a year could add up to a $3 billion boost for the entire industry. The First Lady emerged this year with Jimmy Choo shoes and a Kimberly McDonald ring, an influence greater for these brands than perhaps any Hollywood star. Stanley Lee, CCTV.
And those are the stories we're following at this hour. I'm Changjin in Beijing. Thanks for joining us.